This audio reading is from the book Teachings of Nature in the Kingdom of Grace by Charles Spurgeon. Our selected reading is, I will rain bread from heaven for you, Exodus 16 verse 4. It seems to us that it must have been a very difficult thing to supply food for the hundreds of thousands. I shall not be incorrect if I say the millions who were in the wilderness. But difficult as that was, the provision of food was not as challenging as the task of education. To train that mob of slaves into a disciplined nation, to lift up those who had been in bondage and make them fit to enjoy national privileges, this was the Herculean task that Moses had to perform. Their God, who loved the children of Israel, chose them and determined to make them a peculiar people unto himself, undertook to teach them, using their food as part of their education. Animals are often taught through their food. When they could not be reached in any other way, they have been instructed by their hunger, thirst, and feeding. Similarly, the Lord, knowing the coarse nature of Israel and how the people had degenerated from their ancestral stock during their long bondage, took care to teach them by every means, not only by higher and more spiritual lessons through types and symbols, but also through their hunger and thirst. He taught them by providing water from the rock and manna from heaven. God desired to teach them himself through the gift of manna. He taught them first about his care for them, that he was their God, they were his people, and he would faithfully provide for them. Think of the care that God had over them, over each one of them. Each man had his own omer of manna. No woman, no child was forgotten. Every morning there was a sufficient quantity for every person according to their need for that day. There was never any more and never any less. So carefully did God watch over each individual. The individuality of divine love is a great part of its sweetness. God thinks of each separate child of his as much as if he had only that one. The multiplicity of his elect does not divide the loaf of his affection. He has an infinite love for each one, and will take care of the details of every chosen life. He will see your omer filled precisely, down to the ounce. He will give you all you can possibly require, but will not give you more than necessary to minister to your pride. This care was shown daily. The Lord taught them the continuity of his remembrance through its daily provision. If he had sent one great downpour of manna to refresh his inheritance and instructed them to gather up a vast store for their journeyings, they could not have learned his care so well as when he sent it fresh every morning. Besides, they would have borne the burden of carrying it. Instead, the heavenly supply was always close at hand, exactly at the spot where they pitched their tents. Every morning the manna was precisely where they needed it, without any man's shoulder being made raw by carrying it in a kneading trough. In the same way, the Lord teaches you and me that he not only cares for each of us, but does so every day and every moment, tracking our footsteps and measuring out the exact supply needed for the hour. He is always thoughtful of me. You may say of your Lord, always thoughtful of all the brotherhood, of the whole company of the redeemed, but none the less thoughtful of each one, because there are so many myriads to be cared for every moment of every day. Was that not a sweet lesson for the children of Israel as they gathered their daily bread? But Jehovah also taught them about his greatness. He had demonstrated this in Egypt through mighty plagues and at the Red Sea by parting the waters. But now he gently taught them his greatness through the manna first, by the sheer quantity of it. There was enough for all. How much it required, I leave arithmeticians to calculate. Remember, this quantity fell every morning for 40 years. What a great God is he who could feed the canvas city of his chosen people for 40 years continuously, without his stores being diminished. His greatness was also evident in the manner of their provision. Usually, bread springs up from the soil, but these people were in a waste, howling wilderness. Wonder of wonders, their bread came down from the sky. Can men live on air? Could a population be sustained by mist, cloud, and dew? Yet out of a seeming vacuum came a constant plenty. Every morning the earth was covered with the heaped-up food for all that multitude. They had nothing to do but go out and gather it. What a God is this, whose matchings through the wilderness was so marvellous! Jehovah, thy paths drop fatness. Wherever thou dost put thy foot, the wilderness and the solitary place are glad for thee. If thou dost lead thy people through a desert, it is no desert to them. The heavens supply what the earth denies. Behold the greatness of your God, you who are fed by his care. Finally, they learned about his liberality combined with his greatness. Every day they were fed, but not as Joseph supplied the people in Egypt, taking their money, lands, and freedom to buy the corn. No, there was never any pretense of payment for this daily bread. The richest man had his omer filled without cost, and the poorest man's omer was just as full at the same price. Nothing to pay. No manna tax was ever exacted from the Israelites. Oh, the liberality of God! His invitation is, Ho! Everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat, yea, come, buy wine and milk. Notice how Jehovah's invitation grows. First, come ye to the waters, but then it rises, come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. The Lord is infinitely good. The more we trust him, the more we discover his liberality. He giveth liberally and upbraideth not. Despite Israel's frequent murmuring, the manna fell continually. God's liberality never stinted. He gave each one their omer full. If a man had a large appetite, the manna seemed to grow as he ate. If another had a small appetite, though he gathered much, nothing was left over. God's supply was abundant, yet perfectly suited to the capacity of the receiver. This concludes our reading. Thank you for listening.